It is graduation season across the country, but the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas class of 2021 is without Jamie Guttenberg, who was killed in the Parkland, Florida shooting that took the lives of 13 other children and 3 teachers in February of 2018. Jamie's father, Fred Guttenberg, announced this month that he's starting the Dads for Gun Safety campaign to send a message to lawmakers to pass gun safety legislation right now. Former Illinois Republican Congressman Joe Walsh saw Guttenberg's tweet and responded by voicing his respect and admiration for Fred's activism, even though they disagree on gun policy. And both Fred and Joe join us now to continue that conversation. Fred, you're attempting to get at least 100 high-profile dads to sign your letter. And in it, you write in part this: as dads, we can unite to resist the gun lobby's dangerous lies. Lies that tell us masculinity is tied to a toxic gun obsession, that perpetuate the myth of good guys with guns, that market assault weapons to us as toys instead of lethal weapons of war. We have a role here. Men are more likely to be the perpetrators of gun violence. Men are more likely to be the ones to die by gun suicide. Men are more likely to be gun owners. My vision is not radical. It is sensible and simple. An America without the threat of being shot and killed at school, at work, at church, at the mall, at home, and at every corner. And Fred, I want to hear more about this effort. But with this being the month that she should have been graduating, how are you getting by? And is this what's driving you?
My wife and I have struggled this month. In fact, the day I wrote that tweet that brought Joe and I together, it was the week that my daughter was supposed to graduate. And it was, listen, I watched for weeks as all these other kids had graduation parties, as they were taking senior photos, as they were getting ready to go to college and excited about graduation. And while I am thrilled for those kids, I still love those kids. My daughter's not with them, and I can't get over that. And I'm a dad. I'm a dad who just wants to lower the gun violence death rate, who wants to stop these instances of gun violence. I know a lot of people don't agree with me, which is why I was thrilled, when Joe responded, because you can be 2 dads who don't agree, but can have a reasonable conversation and maybe find mutual ways that we can work together to do something about this epidemic. We see it happening every single day. So here's my message to dads like Joe. You can be a gun owner and for gun safety. There's nothing in this guy that says being for gun safety means we're coming after your guns or we hate the Second Amendment. That's always been a load of BS. We have to work together. Let's send a message to Washington, D.C. And if we don't, the next kid could be yours. And I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and of course, Fred, we think about you all the time. We really do. Not just because you're so close to us, but all of us with kids and with daughters, we think about you so often. Hey, Joe Walsh, you and I probably on guns are probably closer together on guns. I'm a gun owner. I probably, if I didn't have 100% approval rating from the NRA, it was probably 95. It was pretty high. But, you can look at what's been happening, and you look at the fact that 90% of Americans support expanded background checks. You can look at the fact that a majority of Americans want more gun safety measures in place that don't impede on the Second Amendment. You talk about the big lie as far as the Second Amendment goes, constant lying that doing anything to promote gun safety somehow is an infringement of the Second Amendment. That's just a lie. And when you have so many gun safety measures that get 90% support, 80% support, 70% support of the American people, and yet all you get from Congress is no, no, no. Well, that's a disgrace, and it's offensive to Fred's family. It's offensive to the families of Sandy Hook, and it's offensive to millions of Americans, isn't it?
Yeah, Joe, like you, I am a gun owner, and you and I are strong gun rights advocates. But there's a moment here, Joe, and pardon my language, it's early this morning, but screw the NRA. You and I are gun owners. We don't owe the NRA anything. I am so moved by what Fred is doing, and Fred and I do disagree on some fundamental reforms. And Fred, I didn't plan this at all. Mika and Joe, I didn't plan this at all. Fred asked me a week ago to sign his Dads for Gun Safety letter because I disagree with some of the gun control reforms that Fred's advocating. A week ago, I said I won't sign it. Fred, I'd be happy to sign that letter, even though I disagree with some of, this is because of you, Fred. Even though I disagree with some of the measures you're advocating, this is a moment, and you so profoundly pushing this concept of Dads for Gun Safety. I'd be honored to be a part of that in a gesture of real bipartisanship, even if we do disagree on some of the specific reforms. I'm with you, brother, even if you and I disagree.
Fred?
I work really hard not to get emotional in these interviews, but you just got me. Listen, I get it. People aren't going to agree with everything I want, but you know what? This is how we're going to move this country forward, because there is so much that we do agree on. As an example, end family fire, just lock up your guns in your home, things like that. Let's get the bare minimum done on background checks. We need to know who's buying these things. Joe, both of you, I can't tell you how much I respect you. We are dads. I have my father-in-law owns guns. My son has gone shooting with him. This is not an issue of me disliking people with guns. It's an issue of me hating gun violence, the kind of gun violence that randomly targets us when we walk the streets, go to a place of worship, send our kids to school. And I know we can do more. I got to tell you, this week, I attended a premiere for a documentary that I'm in called The Price of Freedom, which actually, you mentioned the NRA. And so what it does is it traces the history of the NRA. It shows exactly how they took hold of our politics and how we got to where we are today. And it is time to get them out of legislators' pockets and out of the process of making legislation so we can make our families safer. If there's one thing I want the Father's Day this year, because I'm not going to get what I really want, which is a day with my two kids, it's for 1 million dads to go on right now. I have it posted on Twitter and sign that letter. Let's send a message right now to everyone in the Senate. And Republicans, I get it. You've been clear. You're not coming along. So Democrats, you're going to have to go it alone on this, but let's do it.
Hey, Fred, it's Willie. It's great to see you this morning. This is obviously extraordinary just to have this conversation. Unfortunately, we don't see it enough, but just to pause and have two people who may disagree on this issue actually have space to have a conversation. And I want to add my voice to what Joe and Mika said. My daughter just turned 14 on Monday. So my heart breaks for you every time I think about Jamie, and we're sending our love always to you and your family. Let's talk about this letter and what's in it. What is reasonable? You've been working on this issue now for 3 years or more. What is reasonable to expect to get done? What are some of the specific things? And Joe, I'd be interested for your take on this after Fred. What can actually get through Congress? What actually can change in this environment?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question, because executive action from President Biden alone won't solve this. But we do need to get Dave Chipman into the ATF. That's number one. We've been rudderless in the ATF now for too many years when gun violence is spiking. Number two, this Senate needs to do the bare minimum. This year is running out, and it has to be this year. I don't want to wait till another election year, to be quite honest. Pass background checks. Do it. Get it done. No more excuses. No more BS. pass background checks, pass safe storage, do the things that up to 90% of the American people agree are reasonable. I get it. There's a lot of controversial stuff that I wish I could see done. You know, we'll have those conversations. Pass background checks. The NRA has used this BS phrasing of a slippery slope for too many years to prevent legislation and to weaken legislation. We've been on the slippery slope. While they've been saying they're worried about it, they've had us on it. We see in states that are even doing things to make it worse. It is time for the national government to step up. Let's give the business community the ability to look across this country and know what to expect, because businesses are now being targeted. Let's give citizens the ability to go out and know that they don't have a target on their back, because right now too many parents worry about that. Pass background checks. Get it done. I heard you talking about Senator Manchin earlier. Joe, I hope he is as prepared as you're giving him credit for, because this will be his legacy. These things will either get done this year because he finds that way to navigate, or they won't, and it's going to come down to him. He needs to do the right thing.